Welcome back. Hello. Welcome back, everybody. John Aravosis here at the Aravosis Report, coming to you live from Washington, D.C., coming to you for the latest news from Ukraine, but also from Israel and Gaza. Yeah, that's about it. We've got a good amount of news, decent amount, not a horrific amount, but a good amount of news tonight. Some stuff kind of happening right now, actually, in Israel and Gaza, but we'll see. Let me get TikTok rolling here on my iPad. Introduce yourselves as always. Thank you, Susan, by the way, for the well wishes. Sasha's asleep in the bed. She'll be bothering me around 7 o'clock, as you all know, to play with her and give her water and everything else. All right, there we go. All right, TikTok's rolling. Hey, Greg. All right, there we go. Woo. Anyway, hello all. Whoosh, whoosh. How are we this evening? Friday night. Woo woo. Good evening, Jens in Sweden. Oop, a little bit of water. Jillian in the UK. Lovely. Big Hawk scaring me from my balcony as always. Good to see you. Call Mick. Or call me K. I made that mistake before thinking your name was Call Mick on TikTok because MEC Mick is like French slang for guy. Hey, Big Hawk, thank you for the gift. Oh, hey, Martin. Hey, guys. Evie. Okay, good. Not news related at least. Well, that's good at least, Evie. Hey, Soren. Thank you for the gift. Oh, I didn't put my little thing up, did I? Thank you, Sexseed. I did not put the little. It's probably too late for me to do it. Well, maybe not too late. I just thank you, Marcy. I just realized I hadn't put my little goal up for the live, but I don't know if it'll let me do it as we're speaking. I can try. Let's see. I don't think it will. Let's see. Señores, ¿qué tal? It's not subscribed. What am I doing here? Oh, thank you for the heart. Let me look here. Gifts. Is it that? Nope, that's giving a gift to myself. I'm not doing that. Oh, they make it so hard on TikTok. Comment, flip camera, gift, interact, pause. You'd think it would be under settings. Comment settings, moderators. Come on, guys. Comment settings? Ugh. TikTok doesn't make it easy if you try to like update this stuff once you've done it. Playing music over your voice. Oh no, they did not do that. God damn it. Son of a bitch. It pisses me off. Sorry, TikTok, screwed up some videos I just put up. TikTok does this pain in the butt thing where it defaults to put music over your voice. And it drives me. There was no reason. I didn't put music on my voice, obviously. I'm not going to talk about the war in Ukraine and the war in Gaza and have like happy music in the background. Son of a bee. It just ticks me off because TikTok always does this. It defaults to putting music. Son of a bitch. I'm going to have to redo this now. Hold on. I got to see if there's... Oh, my God, music. I mean, listen to this. Like I'm going to have that as my music to one of my videos. Oh, it put Halloween music to my video. Oh, my God. Spooky, scary. Oh, my God. All of it did this. I'm going to have to redo these videos now. What, did you all of them? Oh, my God, it did all of them. Son of a... Oh, maybe not all. Okay, killed 3 of them, but that still ticks me off. Now I've got to redo the videos. They're not easy to do. No, TikTok defaults and puts mute. TikTok is a very poorly designed program. Let me just say this. Thank you. Who was that, Corporal? Was that Corporal Samurai? Yep, Corporal. TikTok is a very poorly designed system. And I mean, there's some engineers that design it who, I'm sorry, but I like TikTok, but they don't. Thank you, Kankaranga. They're engineers. They're not human beings. And it drives me nuts when engineers design this crap. Thank you, Pam. And nobody actually tests it out. So they've designed TikTok for some reason to automatically turn music on when you create one of your videos on TikTok. Thank you, Martin. Now, why the hell? And not only does it automatically turn it on, thank you, Martin, it picks the music for you. Like, thank you, Pam. Like, why the hell would I want music automatically on and music TikTok picked? And the best part, the volume is too loud. So if you don't realize it, like what just happened to me, it'll drown you out so they can't even hear you. What idiot engineer thought, hey, let's have music go on automatically and let's have it too loud? I mean, seriously, is it rocket science for you people? So it just destroyed 3 of my videos about Ukraine and Israel because I can't really have la, 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 it's Halloween running in the background as I'm talking about, is Putin dead? Oh, my God. It just ticks me off because I just did 3 videos that I'm going to have to redo after the show now. And it's not easy to do. Thank you, John. Like you go for an hour, you go like for 2 minutes, but you're 2 minutes trying to explain an issue. It's not easy. Like, well, thank you for telling me at least. That would have been just insane. Absolutely insane having that up, but son of a bitches. Mm-mm-mm. Anyway, guys, hello. Oh, their music. I know, of course they are. Yeah. It turned the music on. I already deleted them. It turned the music on automatically against my wishes and put it too loud. Let's not even go there. Pissed. TikTok. This is my issue with tech people overall. The tech industry has a lot of young engineers who don't know what the hell they're doing. Exactly, Radislav. This way I'll report the bad news in a good way. I'll give you Gaza updates with Lady Gaga in the background. You know? No, but it's engineers. They suck. I mean, they really do. They hire young. Same thing with, I swear to God, we're going to do the news in about 2 seconds, but same thing with Google Maps. Google Maps was designed for young people. Once you hit about 40, good luck trying to read Google Maps. You will not be able to read the street names. And when you zoom in, the street names get even smaller. Anyway, oh my God. All right, guys. So welcome. John Eravos is here. Joking about genocide. It's GENOCIDE. First of all, not GENI. If you're going to come here and lie, you might as well lie in proper English. It's kind of one of our rules here. Thank you, Jetta. Appreciate that. So welcome, guys. This is my show. I come here Monday to Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern time, U.S. Thank you, Alex, for the gift, and Francesca. And we talk about the latest news from Ukraine, but also Israel of late, because that's been in the news too. Thank you, Ryan. The way the show works, I go through the news first, and then we do questions and answers afterwards. I stay for a good long, like half the show is questions. So fear not, we'll try to get you all your questions. But for folks who want to help me out and support my work, because I do this full time, and it basically helps me pay my bills. Thank you, Annie and Lori, for folks to do the gifts just like Annie and Lori did right there. If you want to, you could please give the gifts on TikTok. They're very helpful, very appreciated. Alex, thanks for the eyes. And I will always do a shout out when I see them, like now. And also for the super chat, super stickers on YouTube, appreciate those as well. And as a thank you for the super chats, which are questions, I will always get to those as the next thing I talk about. So at least you get a guaranteed answer. Not always as easy to get the sort of, the answers looking at everything else. I mean, when I'm looking at all the questions, I can't get to all of them. So thank you, guys. All right, let's get rolling here. So Israel, there's movement in the last half hour. It's not clear if Israel, thank you, Life, if Israel is invading Gaza, thank you, Lizard and Life, or if it's just more shaping operations that have just stepped up more. But for this evening overall, and keep in mind, the Middle East, we're talking Israel 6 or 7 hours ahead of us at this point. Thank you, Annie Cat. But this evening, the Israelis were already launching a lot of missiles from warplanes, a lot of artillery at Gaza, an uptick in how much they were launching. And we just heard from the Israeli military that they are doing expanded ground operations today as well. Thank you, Nicola. Which means they are sending in some troops on the ground. Thank you, Happy Beach. And it depends who you talk to, whether this is further shaping operations or possibly the beginning of the invasion. Everyone has been assuming that Israel is planning to invade. By invade, I mean literally they will invade Gaza. They will send ground troops in to try to take out Hamas on the ground. Everyone's assuming that's going to happen at some point. The U.S. actually today, I'm trying to think which article, Washington Post. The U.S. today actually urged, not urged today. It was reported today that the Washington Post found out that the U.S. has been urging Israel not to invade for a number of reasons. The Biden administration feels that an invasion isn't going to work. Basically, it's going to bog down. And I was even listening to General Hertling, who's a very good American general, retired, and was listening to him on CNN. And he was saying, which was really interesting, he was saying that the invasions, basically it would be 20 times harder than Mosul and Fallujah, which were, very difficult battles for the Americans in Iraq. And he was saying it would be 20 times harder, which I thought was very interesting. Thank you, Courtney. So yeah, the concern is from the Biden administration that one, it's not clear a ground invasion is going to work. That it may be too many losses of Israeli soldiers, too many losses of Palestinian civilians, and it might not even work, right? I mean, that's the first thing. Second of all, U.S. is worried about hostage negotiations and other negotiations about all of this, that it could kill the hostage negotiations, right? There's still 220 or 224 hostages. Thank you, Adventures. And reportedly today, thanks, Elizabeth, reportedly today, thank you, Macabre, the hostage negotiations got close to being resolved again. I forgot if it was like as many as 200 hostages or something. I mean, something crazy. It was a crazy amount, but that fell through again. So that doesn't get us anywhere. I'm trying to think what the other one was as far as why the Biden administration is concerned just overall with problems in the Middle East, with basically people erupting. If Israel invades, which we know they will. I mean, look, they're protesting just because, I don't want to say just because it's serious, but Israel decided to strike back and everybody protested. If Israel invades, they're going to protest even more. But that's kind of where things are. So it is possible at this moment that the big invasion has just begun. It's possible at just this moment that Israel is simply doing more shaping operations, which basically, any of you guys who watch our Ukraine coverage, is basically in the military when you go in and you try to bomb in order to prepare what's the word I'm looking for here? I was going to say the war zone, but you're trying to sort of prepare the ground for your invasion. You're attacking military supplies. You're attacking headquarters. You're taking out, for example, Israel today just took out cell phones and internet in Gaza. In other words, you're making it very difficult for them if you choose to invade. The theater, I probably should have called it the theater. Thank you, Elizabeth. You're making it very difficult for them so that they're weaker once you do invade. So it's possible that's what's going on too. We just don't know. But my suspicion is, thank you, Alex, as the show is going on tonight, we're probably going to hear something about Israel doing more. I'm sorry, not more, but thank you, Martin, as to whether this is an actual invasion of Gaza happening tonight or whether it is simply Israel sort of ramping up the attacks, but it's still not the big attack. So we'll see. What else we got here? I already told you that was already the first page of news. Beep. U.S. said today it is supportive of a humanitarian pause, which we already knew, for getting humanitarian supplies into Israel. I was looking this up at sort of the difference between humanitarian pauses and a ceasefire. And the experts were saying pretty much what I suspected was the case, which is that, one, a ceasefire is everything you think it would be. Two people going to war say, okay, we're going to stop the war, at least for now. We'll ceasefire. We're not going to fight at each other. Let's negotiate. Let's sit down and negotiate and see if we can work out some deal. Indefinitely. It could go on for weeks. It could go on for months, the ceasefire, right? A humanitarian pause, which the U.S. and the Brits have been pushing, is to basically pause the fighting for a few days, for example. It's a temporary thing, and it's a short period of time. It could be for 2 days, for 3 days. It could be, thank you, Elizabeth. I haven't seen the boat in a while. It could be to open up humanitarian corridors. It probably would be, saying, okay, either we're going to stop fighting overall for 3 days, or Israel could say, we will not be attacking anywhere north of this line. So anybody north of this line, I don't know, we're going to allow food and water to come in. We're going to allow fuel to come in. They could just stop entirely and say, for the next 3 days, we're not going to bomb. And we're going to let fuel go to all the hospitals. In any case, that's what a humanitarian pause would be, where you are pausing the fighting, but for a very discrete period of time, and for humanitarian aid to get in. And then after the time runs out, the fighting starts again. So that's kind of where we are. Neither one is agreed to at this point. U.S. military conducted airstrikes on 2 sites in eastern Syria over the last day or overnight, associated with Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guards and affiliated groups. This was in response for, I'll say Iran's attacks, but Iran's attacks through their surrogates, through basically terrorists and other militias that Iran works with in Iraq and Syria. And basically Iran had its stooges, or whatever you want to say, its proxies, attack us in Iraq and Syria. There were at least 20 injuries to American troops over the last week. I mentioned this the other night. 4 American soldiers had symptoms of traumatic brain injury. 1 contractor died at an American military base when there was a false alarm about an attack from these troops. Thank you, Sean River. What else we got here? Actually, you know what's funny? That's all I got in Israel today, guys. There isn't much yet. We know the humanitarian situation is getting a lot worse. The United Nations is getting very worried. Thank you, Annie. The Israelis said today, but I will say this, they didn't offer proof, and I'd like somebody to offer proof, but the Israelis said today, they gave some details of one refugee camp and how Hamas has set up multiple of their command structures underneath the refugee camp in their tunnels they set up. So they had like a headquarters there, a couple different things. And of course, they were under buildings in the actual refugee camp. The only thing I would say is I'd like some proof. Like, it's fine for Israel to allege that. We do know for a fact, mind you, we do know that Hamas does this. A, we know Hamas has tunnels everywhere. B, we know Hamas uses human shields all the time. So that is not news. It's just, if you're going to allege that there are literally Hamas operations underneath a Palestinian refugee camp in Gaza, you ought to prove it. You've got to prove it because, first of all, it's also super duper important, right? I mean, you know, if you're trying to explain why some of your bombs might be hitting refugee camps, it would help to know that there's a Hamas headquarters under there and to be able to prove it. Now, some people would say don't attack anyway because it's a refugee camp. Other people are going to say if Hamas sets up its headquarters under a refugee camp, it's fair game. But at least you got to share. They're going to have to share some information, not Matan. I mean, the problem is I understand where they may have problems sharing some of it because of spy work, but they've still got to figure out how to do it in a way that basically, look, Hamas, zero credibility in my eyes in terms of what they allege. They're terrorists. Israel, I think under Netanyahu, still plays, and I'm honestly, even with this war, they still play some games with the truth. Nothing like Hamas does. But Israel still plays a little bit of a game sometimes. And I think, especially Netanyahu, who I don't really trust, I think it would behoove them to get the evidence out there on this stuff. Because then, granted, the bad guys are going to say, oh, it's not true. But everybody else like me, right, and the folks in the middle are going to look at the evidence and say, okay, on this one, Israel's telling the truth. It's just in terms of public relations, and public relations matters because you need the world support. It would help. All right. Honestly, that's it for the coverage today. The hostages, as I said, there was some, I mean, I've got Ukraine next, a lot of Ukraine news. With the hostages, there was negotiation going on again with Qatar, Red Cross, and I guess Hamas. And supposedly there was a deal being worked out to possibly release as many as 200 of the civilian hostages. Now, what's interesting with that is, if they're saying there's 224 hostages about, and the report today was that they almost were on the verge of releasing 200 civilian hostages, that seems to suggest that 200 of the 224 are civilians, so only 24 are military, right? Because we know supposedly there's some Israeli military folks that were taken hostage as well. And people would argue, obviously, taking a military member hostage is an entirely different story than taking, first of all, not hostage. You aren't allowed to take people hostage. You are allowed to take a military member prisoner, right? And the same, but you aren't allowed to do it for citizens, for civilians. So, but interesting that number sort of came out as far as the numbers, right? Please get the numbers right. Oh, Sylvia, you're so leaving us. Those numbers are correct. Goodbye. Sorry, I'm like not in the mood for people being obnoxious. Don't be obnoxious. This is serious stuff here, guys. All right. All right, that's it for the Israel news. I'm going to switch over to Ukraine. Remember, guys, please do, and afterwards, remember we're going to do the Q&A and everything else on this. Thank you, Velika. Perfect introduction, Velika giving a gift. I will do that, Annie. Perfect timing. Yep, Andy, that'll be the first thing I talk about. Thanks, Matt. Well, second thing after the coffee talk. Thank you for who is that? Mads for the gift. So remember to a number of ways to support my work, guys. I always got to hit you up for this, but you can do the gifts on TikTok, which I very much appreciate. We'll do shout outs for. You can do the super chat, super stickers on YouTube. And the only reason I ask is because I do this full time. This is actually my job. It's fun. I mean, I do enjoy this kind of work. Fun. Hard to say fun when you got bad things like this happening. Thank you, Timmy. But what I mean is, it is certainly an energizing kind of job, and I've been doing it for years. But I'm only able to do this kind of work by people helping me pay the bills, frankly, because I'm doing this instead of working for clients. So if you can, I appreciate the gifts. That's why I ask you guys. And also consider the monthly. Oh, I wish I was paying by the IDF, CIA, KGB, maybe not KGB. Oh, are we gonna, tonight's sunset sadly isn't that nice. Thank you, user. We had a great one last night. Wonderful sunset last night. The sky was like orange and blue. What do you do? Not maybe. Well, no, it's already going down. Unfortunately, it's still nice. Sunsets are still nice. That's a good question. Yeah, Desert Review says, I've got a question, a legit question. They cut off the internet to Palestine. How can we see what's going on? Good point. We won't. I mean, we don't. Thank you, Ellie. I mean, you won't. Right? I mean, you won't be getting any reports. I mean, I will say this, if you're Israel, it makes sense, right? If you're attacking a war zone, you don't want videos coming out of the war zone, even if you're doing everything. It is a good question, though. Yeah. Even if you're doing everything right, you don't want videos coming out of the war zone of what you're doing. Because let's face it, in general, in Ukraine, for example, thank you, Marie. In Ukraine, they don't let journalists embed with their troops. Remember how the U.S. for several of our invasions, we would have journalists embedded with our troops so they could report. Thank you, Peachums. I'm calling it Peachums, Peach Umbrella. Ukraine doesn't do that. And Israel isn't either. So I'm not surprised. Now, I am not going to say that it's totally okay, because I don't know to what degree, thank you, Susie, to what degree cutting off phone and internet could be putting people's lives at risk because of calling ambulances and things like that, right? So there certainly is an impact on civilians. But from a military perspective, there's no reason you want Hamas to be able to communicate with each other. And frankly, you don't want videos coming out because the videos, not only are they bad publicity, even if you're doing the right stuff, it's still going to be bad publicity. Let's face it, Israel will get blamed no matter what. I mean, right? I mean, they will. Again, you don't even have to pick a side on that. They'll get blamed no matter what. So I'm not surprised they cut it off, frankly. Sorry, Julius, a couple more questions here. I've been off for a bit, so I'm curious if you ever found a Ukrainian to help your mother. We did, and she's lovely. Yes, thank you. So, all right, let me get rolling here. So today is day 610 of Vladimir Putin's special 3-day military operation in Ukraine. We're going to talk about Ukraine for a little bit, and then we'll do question and answer. Anything you guys want to talk about, Israel, Ukraine, we're good. Tomorrow morning is my coffee talk. Remember, thank you, NJ Patman, for the Black Cat. Every Saturday morning-ish, around 11 a.m. Eastern Time, U.S., where I live, Washington, D.C., I do a get-together with the paid monthly subscribers. Basically, as a thank you for you guys, thank you, Amy, as a thank you to you guys for subscribing monthly. And basically, you could be monthly subscribers on TikTok, on YouTube, Twitch, Discord, Ko-fi. And as a thank you for that, I do a show. And very often, Vlad from Ukraine, my friend in Ukraine, joins us. So come tomorrow morning. It's just me, our crowd. We let people come in for a preview on TikTok, but that's it. And it's my thank you for you guys. So please do. It'll be on TikTok for all the TikTok subscribers. All the other monthly subscribers, join us on Discord. I'll set up the event. Hopefully I remember to set up the event tonight. I'm going to write myself a little note here, event. But I'll be there tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern. So the fundraiser, Annie had asked about the fundraiser. Our fundraiser is over. We did pretty well. We were raising money for a drone school for training Ukrainian troops, but also Ukrainian civilians on how to use drones for the military, obviously. And they needed some money for extra drones, for extra drone motors, because they manufacture their own drones, for the control panels, the controllers they use for the drones. Bottom line is we were able to raise $1,854. We needed $1,971, so we're $117 short. And Vlad said he's going to pitch in the difference because he really wants to hit the drone school or help them. Again, this will be the last time I ask. We won't ask about the drones anymore. If you guys want to help, I mean, a number of you have helped already, so don't feel like you got to give more. But if you want to help, 100% of the money will go towards buying these drone supplies for the drone school in Ukraine. We do a lot of fundraising for these things. We've raised over $100,000 at this point over the last year and a half that the war's been going on. And I like to do it because they're very nice, specific, concrete things. that we're able to do to help. Thank you, Parta. And they're small things, but they're important. Like this is a drone school teaching Ukrainians how to use drones. And the school keeps getting more and more students. So please do. We need another $117. Otherwise, I mean, I told Vlad I wasn't going to pitch it tonight. He said, call it. That's fine. We need 117. He said, I'm going to pay it myself. But I thought I'd ask you guys, because I knew if I told you Vlad was paying it, some of you would feel bad. But if you can help, final pitch, you can go to my profile on TikTok, click the Linktree link, the URL, and the very first thing that comes up will have Vlad's PayPal information. You can't click through at that point because Vlad's in Ukraine. The PayPal's kind of messed up. Go to your PayPal and simply wire some money to Vlad with PayPal, not wire, but with PayPal. And you guys can do it. I'll pull off Annie's thing. Thank you, Annie. Using Vlad's PayPal information there. And you just send it. Vlad knows what it's coming for. You don't have to put a message or anything. He knows what's coming, that it's for this. And if we get any extra, we'll help the drone school with a little bit more. Why not? So thank you guys. If you can help, I'd appreciate it. But otherwise, we still did pretty good though. We got within $117. So pretty cool. Yes, I did. I think I did mention this the other day real quick, since B-Fern is asking, it's about Israel. I want to switch to Ukraine, but it's a good point. B-Fern said, talk about the journalist who lost his wife, children, and grandchild. It really is a horrible story. This Palestinian journalist, I forget his name because I wasn't prepared to talk about it, but I saw the story about it the other night. He's probably the most famous Palestinian journalist in the Middle East. A very well-respected guy. And he was, I think, on the air when he found out that I don't want to say Israeli bomb strike because we did not, as of yesterday, we did not know. Okay, the name is Wael Dadu. Okay, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Thank you, Dana. As of yesterday, we did not know who caused the explosion. Always important to find, to know. Thank you, Ellie. But there was an explosion. Something exploded at, I believe, a refugee camp in Gaza. His wife, his son and daughter, and the daughter, I think might have been like 6 or 7 years old. She was very young. The son wasn't that much older. He might have been a teenager. I think the son might have been 15. The daughter was like 6 or 7. Really horrible. Thank you, Die Hard. The wife, thank you, Flower Lady, and a grandchild, all were killed. This poor guy. And he was on the air. Anyway, horrible story. But there you go. But that's the story. Yeah. I doubt they targeted his home. I have a serious doubt. Yeah, no. Once again, get the facts on these things before you judge. It's bad. And I will say something, though, that's going to piss some of you off, but this is what happens during wars. People get killed, especially when the war is basically a big city or close to a big city. You have 2 million people packed into Gaza, which is a very small area. Thank you, Becky. Okay, you guys, you don't have to give any more. You guys made the difference. The extra money, like I said, Vlad will use for this drone center or possibly our next fundraiser. Let me put it that way, too. It may be for the next fundraiser as well, because he's been cooking up some additional stuff. So thank you for that. But, civilians die. Civilians die in wars, especially when the wars are happening in civilian areas. And I don't want to sound crass by saying that, but this is something that there was I wish I had the clip. I don't have it in front of me, guys. There is a clip of the U.S. spokesperson. He's an admiral, a former U.S. admiral, John Kirby. He's the spokesperson for the National Security Council, basically the foreign policy experts that work in the White House, kind of is the way to call the National Security Council, dealing with crises and things. And he was asked by a reporter, I think from Brazil, aren't you embarrassed or ashamed or whatever that you said yesterday that civilians die during wars? And he said, no. And she said, are you going to take it back? And he said, no. And what about President Biden? He said, is he going to apologize? He said, no, he's not going to apologize. He said, civilians die in wars. That's what happens. It can't be avoided. You absolutely should try to avoid it. You should try to do whatever you can to avoid it. And then he also explained, and he said, because she used some word about horrific or some word that was a sort of a superlative about how horrible it was that civilians were dying. And he went through the litany of things that have happened in this war that were horrific as well, about all the Israelis dying, about all the hostages, about the babies being murdered. But the man, they tried to chop a guy's head off. Actually, they did successfully when he was alive. They used a hoe. Sorry, Webadeb. I kept saying I was going to warn her before they did this. But one point, and I say this not to be cruel or not to freak people out, but People need to understand in wars, people die, not just civilians, not just military. Civilians die in wars. The big question is, are you trying to kill civilians? That's the first big no-no. Or do you not care that you are killing civilians? That's the second big no-no, right? You try to minimize civilian casualties. It is required by the laws of war. A, and B, you do not intentionally try to kill civilians. You don't. It is a war crime, period. But the problem is, and I see this especially now mind you, on this issue, we're dealing with a bunch of crazies. Not you guys, but I mean, there's a lot of crazy people on this issue, and there always have been. Thank you, Lori. I'm talking, 30, 40 years that I've been paying attention. You start talking about this issue and everybody gets crazy, right? Now we have a lot of political issues that happens, but this is one of the original ones where you just can't get into a sane discussion. People do not understand on this issue that civilians die in wars. And just because civilians die, it doesn't mean you're guilty. Just because civilians ended up dying in your attack. It depends who you targeted. Did you want civilians to die? Or did you know a lot of civilians were going to die and you didn't care and you had an alternative? Okay. A, you had an alternative, and B, the target wasn't that important. But the point is, as I said, people don't understand this point, and they use it to try to suggest that anytime, and frankly, we hear it about Iraq too. I'm not going to defend the Iraq war because George Bush lied to get into the Iraq war. So I am not going to be defending him. That's for sure. That was horrific what he did there. But you will hear a lot of people bring this point up because they don't understand how wars work. They don't understand how the law works. And there is a huge difference between I killed you accidentally and I killed you on purpose. And in wars, a lot of people are going to get killed accidentally, and it doesn't necessarily make it a crime. It makes it a tragedy. It doesn't make it a crime. They couldn't have. But again, sorry, we're getting into the Q&A stuff here. Any case, let's do it during Q&A. Let's do it during Q&A. Let me give you the Ukraine update first, though, because I got a lot of the regulars who come here for the Ukraine stuff too. So, oh yeah, so there's more rumors that Putin died. He didn't. I don't think he did. Sorry, checking out the sunset again. More rumors that Putin died today. It, of course, is coming from a Telegram account yet again. Thank you, Corporal. You remember a couple days ago, there was a Telegram account that claimed that Putin had a heart attack and died. And it doesn't look like he did. The Kremlin finally came out and said, no, he didn't. Well, I don't know if it's the same Telegram account, but another Telegram account, thank you, Ellie, for the hearts, came out and yet again claimed that now this time Putin was dead. The Kremlin came out and said, no, he's not. I'm not convinced he is. But having said that, we are dealing with a dictatorship. We are dealing with a state that is like run by one man, and that's it. If Putin were to die, we'd have no way of knowing. Thank you, Kona Julie. We'd have absolutely no, and Terrence for the gift for as well. We'd have no way of knowing if Putin were to have died. So that I don't, thank you, Lizard Man. So I don't want to say all of these things are false because who knows, but it's very difficult. I think with him dying, you're going to have a better chance because at some point in the next couple of weeks, they'd have to pick somebody else to take over. They're not gonna keep dead quiet for long. And that's what Callum just said. Same thing. But if he were ill, if he had a heart attack, if he kept being close to death's door, that they would hide. And that they have hid before. Under the Soviet Union, the Soviet leaders, they used to hide that stuff all the time. We never knew. We never knew who was dead and who wasn't. Literally, people would be looking in the windows of the Kremlin and going, okay, it's midnight and there's a lot of lights on in the Kremlin, right? This kind of crazy stuff, right? To try to figure out what's actually going on. But in any case, we do not have any proof that he's dead, so no. Officials from up to 70 nations. Oh, that's right. That's this weekend. So thank you, Florian. The next summit to discuss peace in Ukraine is this weekend. This is sort of the summit that was put together. The previous meetings were, I want to say, somewhere in the Nordic countries. Thank you, Diane. Was it Denmark or Norway? Something like that. Maybe Norway, the first one. The second one happened in Saudi Arabia. And this third one is happening in Malta. Thank you, Ketamine. Thank you, Ali. This third one's in Malta. 70 nations will be represented, which is very cool. 2-day talks. They will not involve Russia. Russia was not invited. And it will bring national security advisors and foreign ministers from the various countries. Thank you, Ali. Very interesting, though. that they're still doing this. Now, my suspicion is, thank you, Bonnie, is that it's a bit of an effort for Ukraine to try to get developing countries on board because they haven't been as helpful as they should be in defending Ukraine. They haven't quite understood that, maybe the Ukrainians deserve to be defended against an imperialist as well. But nonetheless, it's good they're having the meeting. We'll see if anything comes of it. A lead Russian puppet was almost killed in Crimea in the last day. His name is Oleg Tsaryov, and he was lined up to be the next leader in Kyiv when the Russians invaded. Reportedly, he was the guy they were going to put in charge, and we think Ukrainian intelligence had him shot in the last day. He was seriously wounded. He's in the hospital. He's not dead. He's not critical, but he's seriously wounded. It says the ambulance said when the ambulance arrived, he was unconscious and had lost a lot of blood. According to another article in the Ukrainian press, supposedly the Ukrainian intelligence services, the SBU, were the ones who did it, but we don't know. TikTok, you guys can still hear me. Slava's having an issue hearing the audio, but on TikTok, the rest of you can still hear, right? Just making sure. Yeah, Slava, refresh maybe come out and come back in. Sometimes that could be a problem. Yep. Okay, good. You guys have audio. Good to hear. And you're not hearing TikTok play music over what I'm saying. Which would be, I still can't believe I've got to redo. I'm so pissed. Oh, I sat for right before the show and I was like, I'll do a couple of videos on TikTok. Got them done. TikTok put music on them. I had to delete them. Thanks, TikTok. There's nothing like happy, peppy music when talking about war. What else we got? Oh, this was interesting. So Zelensky says that Russia lost at least a brigade of troops fighting to capture Avdiivka in eastern Ukraine. Now, Avdiivka, you may recall, is the town here right northwest of Donetsk. All of this is occupied by Russia, okay, Donetsk included. But right northwest of Donetsk, Avdiivka is this little town that the Russians threw a ton of troops and a ton of weapons, heavy machine equipment, tanks, etc. at, and didn't do very well. Didn't do very well at all. Zelensky says the Russians lost a brigade, at least a brigade. That would be between 2,000 and 8,000 men, because I guess kind of depends how you count it. Institute for the Study of War did say they can't prove that many men were lost, but they said there were reports of heavy Russian equipment losses around Avdiivka that were so significant that they will undermine Russian offensive capabilities over the long term. So basically meaning that we do know that Russia lost a lot of equipment, a lot of their weapons there, and as a result, it's going to be very difficult for Russia to go on the offensive. Actually, this says in the long term, not even anytime soon, which is very interesting. So that's good news. Vlad told us in both of the, oh, hey, Rossi. Vlad told us in both of the lives we did on the weekends, remember the Saturday morning, we do the live for the paid subscribers on TikTok and YouTube. TikTok and Discord for everybody else. And Vlad had told us that the reports in Ukraine were that the Russians lost 1,000 men in one day, like a huge number of deaths in Avdiivka. This certainly backs up that they had a lot of equipment losses, which is still good news for Ukraine. Hungary and Slovakia, the two big stooges of Putin. Thank you, LWD. We now have two Putin stooges in the EU and in NATO, unfortunately. The Hungary and Slovakia voiced criticism of Ukrainian aid today at a European Union summit. Orban, who's the wannabe dictator of Hungary, said today that for the time being, he rejected the planned 50 billion euro aid package for Kyiv. That's $53 billion. And I think you guys said Fico there. Oh, Roger has it there. Fico, there you go. Fico, was it Robert Fico, I think, who's the new Slovakian prime minister, who's super anti-Ukraine, super pro-Putin. He says that corruption in Ukraine is a potential challenge to future support. Now, let me just say, anybody who says corruption in Ukraine is a challenge to future support doesn't want to support Ukraine at all. I mean, corruption, there's corruption worldwide. Other than maybe some of the world's top democracies, right? I mean, we have corruption, but not as bad as they've got in Eastern Europe, for example, in some of these countries, Ukraine, Russia, etc. But the idea that Oh, so we're not going to come to Ukraine's aid because there might be some corruption there? Like, what does that even mean? Does that negate the fact that if Russia wins, that's really dangerous for the world if Russia wins? No, Russia's still problematic. If they win, it's still dangerous whether Ukraine has corruption or not. So it is an argument, I think, used by people who don't want to help Ukraine anyway, and they would like to help Putin, and that's why they say it, because it's kind of a bogus argument. Either you're afraid of Putin and you're afraid of what he's going to do in Eastern Europe, or you're not. Right? It doesn't matter if Ukraine has some corruption or not. British Ministry of Defense says, this was interesting. Okay, Vlad mentioned this weekend during our live last weekend, that basically the Russians have not been firing as many of their cruise missiles, their air-launched cruise missiles at the Ukrainians, and I think at Kyiv in particular. Now, this was from British Ministry of Defense. They said Russian Air Force's long-range aviation fleet of heavy bombers has not conducted an air-launched cruise missile strike into Ukraine for over a month, one of the longest gaps in the war. It says, while Russia is still able to use other strike capabilities, the long-range aviation fleet has been the primary method for conducting standoff precision strikes. So what's interesting about this is why, right? Are they trying to preserve their weapons? Did they run low on weapons? Right? They're trying to make more. Or, and I kind of wonder about this too, are they saving them up? You know, the Ukrainians have a better chance of knocking. Well, actually, here's a question for guys. Air-launched cruise missile. How good is something like, I'm tired. Patriot. How good is a Patriot going to be at taking out an air-launched cruise missile, like from a fighter, like from a bomber? Anybody know? I know it takes a second for it to catch up. You guys, I'm always like 7 seconds ahead, I think, of you guys here. So just seeing. End of the military, folks, pretty good. That's what they're designed for. 98%. Okay, Callum says 98% success. I listen to Callum a lot because Callum's former British military and knows his stuff. Okay, so if you're Russia and you're firing, I don't know, a couple cruise missiles a night or whatever it is, would you rather fire 2 or 5 cruise missiles a night and the Patriots are able to take them down? Or would you rather wait 30 nights and fire 60 or 90 cruise missiles at once and hope that you overwhelm the Patriot and cause a lot of damage to Ukraine? It is quite possible that what Russia's doing is waiting in order to, Laka says saving for the winter power attacks. That could be it. They could be waiting, and it could be one night, and they're planning on attacking. Well, okay, here's an idea. You attack all over Ukraine. That makes it hard for the Patriot because the Patriot is only protecting certain cities, certain areas. Ukraine doesn't, what do they have? 3 Patriots now? Maybe 4. I'm trying to remember. They don't have that many. So if they attack all over Ukraine, they have a better chance of hitting because Patriot is not all over Ukraine. Second of all, if you do more at once, you, as Gray just said on TikTok, you overwhelm the air defenses. So you're overwhelming the Patriot systems, but also other air defenses. Thank you, Kronos. So you have a better chance of each missile getting through if you throw a bunch of missiles at once. The other thing is, if you're going to try to take out Ukraine's power for the winter, why not take it all out in one night, right? That means Ukraine has to fix everything. It means the power is knocked out everywhere, right? Nationwide. And it's a lot harder to, it's right. I mean, not harder, but you've got to repair a lot of systems. In any case, it's possible Russia doesn't have enough, but knowing Russia, I'm a little suspicious as to whether they're up to something, and saving it for some kind of mass attack. Time will tell. A few more stories. Actually, only one last story. Germany. See, this is the good German. Remember I said Germany's got like the good hat and the bad hat. This is the good hat here of Germany. Germany, we have to get rid of a Russian here. Can I give the angel his wings? There we go. Goodbye. Bye-bye. The Germans, good Germans, have handed over a third IRIS-T SLS system to Ukraine. IRIS-T SLS missiles, 5,000 artillery shells, and other defense assistance. It's part of its latest aid package to Ukraine, which is very nice of them. So thank you, Germany. Again, we like good Germany. Bad Germany, we're not so thrilled with. Good Germany, we love good Germany. But unstable connection. It's okay. just so TikTok knows, it showed me it lost a connection for a second and then had an unstable connection. So it probably buffered for you guys. It should correct itself in a second. TikTok's being evil again, for all the rest of you. Give it a second. It should hope. Yeah, it's better now. Yep. All right. So let me show you guys a couple of the auction items. I've got them all up now. We have some really cool auctions we do over at Discord where we try to, Angel got its wings while you guys were waiting. We do auctions over at Discord in my Discord community. It's discord.aravosis, my last name, .aravosis.com. So discord.aravosis.com. And I get cool stuff from Ukraine and we auction it off. And 50% of the money goes back to Ukraine and 50% goes to support me because I do this full time. Thank you, Tiger Poo. And it helps me out because it helps me pay the bills so I can keep doing this. Also helps me pay the bills are your guys' gifts on TikTok, like TBI Chris right there. Thank you for the eyes and super chat and super stickers. So please keep those coming. But let me show you a couple. I've got 3 different ornaments. These are hand-painted ornaments from Ukraine. I'm selling these as a combo because the little one I'm calling the Death Star. The Death Star has a little dent in it, either caused by US or Ukrainian postage. Hard to know which. And the other one, I'll show you the other one. The other one's they're both very pretty, but the other one's nice because it has like a traditional Ukrainian couple painted on it, which is really neat. Oops. It's hard to get here for both. I'm trying to do this for both cameras. It's kind of hard. And then gives like a Christmas message on the back that's really neat. It's signed with the town the woman's from, but that one's really neat. Another ornament, again, hand painted. This one has a Cossack, which is really pretty. You guys can see. But I love these because they're hand painted. They're the Petrikivka style, which is the traditional Ukrainian style. Anyway, very cool. We've got similar, actually, same woman did these. Similar style, the Petrikivka. She did these as well. It's a refrigerator magnet, but as a horseshoe. Very pretty. Again, hand painted from Ukraine. An Azov patch, which always sets the crazies because the Russians hate these guys. This is a real patch from the Azov battalion, not used. It's new. It actually comes with a piece of Velcro on the back so you can sew the Velcro to something and then affix the patch if you want to. Kind of cool, like to a bag. But the Azov patch is neat because these are the guys that were fighting at the Azov-style steel plant in Mariupol, southeastern Ukraine, where 2,000 Ukrainian soldiers, maybe 1,000 of these guys were comprised of the 2,000s. 1,000 of these guys fought off, along with another 1,000 Ukrainian troops, fought off 14,000 Russian soldiers for about 2 months. Absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. So thank you, Zach, for that. So these are the Azov guys. Very nice patch. These are quite desirable in sort of military circles. Also got cool Ukrainian woven armband, a little a wristband. Very pretty. The blue and gold, which are the Ukrainian colors. This one's interesting. And I always say with this one, I can't prove it's real. It's from Ukraine, bought in Ukraine. It claims to be a piece of metal made from a Russian T-72 tank destroyed during the Battle of Kyiv. Is it? I don't know, but it's kind of cool. So we're putting this up for bid too. You guys can see. Again, maybe real, maybe not. It does have the QR code on the back that takes you to pictures of a destroyed Russian tank. Is it real? I don't know, but it's cool. And actually, I'll show you what the hell? I'll show you everything. I don't care. So coffee mug. This is Russian warship. Go F yourself coffee mug with the famous stamp on the front showing a Ukrainian soldier giving the middle finger to the Russian warship, the Moskva. The Russian warship, the Moskva, is the one that the first day of the war, the Ukrainian troops said, it does say that on the back, yes, that the Ukrainian troops, the first day of the war, the Russians tried to basically kick the Ukrainians off of Snake Island and told them, Ukrainian troops, get out of here. This is the Russian warship. We are going to destroy you if you don't surrender. And the Ukrainian troops responded, Russian warship, go F yourself, right? Ukrainians made a stamp of it. This is the Postal Service made a mug, a coffee mug, a tea mug of the stamp. And the stamp, I kid you not, the Ukrainian stamp shows a Ukrainian soldier giving the finger, giving the middle finger to the Russian troops. It's tremendous. It's absolutely tremendous. So that's what that is. Finally, 2 pieces of clothing. One piece of clothing We've got the camouflage shirts. These are shirts that my friend Vlad made for the volunteers that are making the camouflage nets for the not for the Russian, for the Ukrainian military. We've been raising money to get, to basically make camouflage nets for the Ukrainian military. And this is, it says it on Ukrainian, what is it? The Moskivalnya, something Sotnya, which basically means like the camouflage 100. So it's a name they gave to the volunteers. Shows like a spider web and a spider, but the shirt itself is neat because it's got like camouflage on it. You know, the back as well has camouflage. One shoulder is camouflage, the other's not. It's very cool. It's very cool. So go check it out. That's very neat. And the final one, which is one of my favorites, is, we only have a few left, are the sweatshirt that President Zelensky wears. And these are really neat. I love these. This is one I'm keeping for myself, but they're really cool. He's worn these a lot. I've got pictures up of him wearing it. We bought them from the actual same place he gets them from in Ukraine. So these are the real sweatshirts, which is nice. They're not just like lookalikes. They're the real sweatshirts from the same place. But I think we may only have medium and extra large left, I think, because I've auctioned off all the rest of them. So that's up there too. Go check it out. All of that's over at discord.aravosis.com. All right, guys, remember 50% of the money goes back to Ukraine for charity and helping the military, or charity both, and 50% goes to support my works and this show if you like it. So please do. Okay, let's go. Questions, comments, gifts. I'm not going to tell you this, the sweatshirt company. Actually, I don't know the sweatshirt company. You know why? They don't put a label on it, which I thought was hilarious. There's no label on it. And I'm like, you're not advertising yourself. What are you doing? But they don't. So there's no label. It's 100. I think it's 100%. No, it's not 100% cotton. It's in the thing, 80% or something. But I don't know the company. Vlad knows. I wouldn't tell people anyway, to be honest, because, you know, I don't want you to find it. The recent videos with music were a mistake. I already deleted them. They better not still be there. They were a mistake. TikTok threw music on my videos. Okay, tell me. I did delete these. Tell me they're gone. They're gone. Yeah, I've only got 2 up there now.
Israel is being urged by
Yeah.
the US to Israeli troops this evening.
Yeah, those videos are gone. They're gone. Yeah. Yeah, it was very annoying. TikTok just threw it on. I was really annoying. Oh, I don't remember, Dawn. Do you have one of the sweatshirts? Yeah. I like it because it's a nice, comfy sweatshirt too. Yeah. Yeah. You know, I got to do 3 videos again when I get off with you guys now because they screwed it up. Thank you, Nancy Wax, for the super sticker. Appreciate it. Oh, boy. Brendy, TikTok stressed you out. I think TikTok's stressing out the mod. Brendy says, I moved to YouTube a year ago. TikTok stressed me out too much. How are the mods feeling? Moldova news, not really. Updates on Iran and the U.S. I mean, Iran keeps pretending like they're going to attack the U.S. They're not. I don't think they are. I think Iran may sick its surrogates on us. You know, they may try to sick their Hezbollah and those guys to invade. That's possible. But Iran itself isn't going to attack us. No, nothing new on Armenia. I mean, yesterday we had some Armenian news. Nothing new today. Oh, get out of here. That's funny. Sorry, GKW says the family is using or it's probably not the same jet stove, is it? Or is it a similar, because the jet stoves from my folks literally have my my TikTok, Twitter name at Aravosis on it. Or is it a similar one, you mean? But yeah, that's what I think Iran's going to do too, what Franklin said. They're not going to attack us, Iran. They're going to attack our interests overseas. Exactly. They're going to sort of put, the handle. Oh, then it literally is one of ours. That's funny. That's funny. Then they're literally, they're not going to attack us directly because they'd be, oh, that's really funny. It's one of our stoves. That's hilarious. Good for them. I mean, bad for them. I feel bad if they need it, but I'm glad it's actually helping them. That's funny. Wow. They must be in Eastern Ukraine, I'm going to guess, or else that thing got passed around. Anyway, what else we got, guys? Israel's video of its military setup. I'm not sure. Maybe I haven't seen it. Thank you, Francesca and Kronos. I don't know. Maybe I haven't seen it. Well, the thing is, Iran is going to probably, Iran could kind of use terrorists around the world to try to attack us. But if Iran's hand is proven to be a part of it, we will be bombing Iran. We don't want to, but I think we will. So hopefully Iran is smart enough to know that. Samantha, very generous super chat question. It's reported that thousands of Israeli troops in armored vehicles entered North Gaza. Yes. Thank you, Kronos, for the gift. Do you think this is the ground invasion or just another raid? We talked about that as the very first thing in the show because the news had just broken. Now it's been an hour. There's probably more news on. Actually, I'm going to even look as I'm talking to you guys. We don't know. This could be basically Israel overnight. Mind you, night started there a while ago. Right? I mean, there's 6 hours. Alexa, what time is it in Israel?
In Israel, it's 1:55 a.m.
Oh, so it's 2 a.m. Okay, so it's 7 hours. They're 7 hours ahead of us. This evening, right? Oh, 2 a.m. I guess, right, Kronos, you're there. This evening, Israel had a lot of missile attacks from airplanes that they did on Gaza, a lot of artillery attacks, and ground troops started going in. And the big question was whether this was the beginning of the ground invasion or it was Israel sort of ratcheting up the attacks, but in preparation for an eventual ground invasion. In other words, they're going in to try to destroy some of the tunnels, to try to maybe even go after some of the hostages. Who knows? But it's not necessarily the big ground invasion. That's the thing. So, we don't know. I'm just looking here to see. I always like to check on Twitter. Let's check on Twitter and see if there's anything new on that. The German news was simply that Germany is handing over a third Iris-T air defense system and some artillery shells and other stuff. But the Iris-T was the big news, which we were praising Germany for. So it was good. Okay, I'm looking here just to see if there's any additional news. Yeah, kind of a weird. I was looking at this earlier. Bernie Sanders did a tweet about the. Thank you again for this, Samantha. Did a tweet because it has been 5 years since the massacre at the Tree of Life Synagogue. This, I'm almost positive, is the synagogue in was it Pittsburgh? It's in Pennsylvania, but it was in Pittsburgh. Jewish synagogue, right? I mean, synagogue, a Jewish temple, and where the shooter came and, slaughtered a lot of people. Horrific, absolutely horrific story. It's 5 years today. Bernie Sanders is a big, well-known American senator, Democrat, ran for president, and he's Jewish. So he spoke out today and did a tweet saying, "Today we remember and mourn the victims lost 5 years ago in the devastating massacre of the Tree of Life Synagogue. We must remain committed to fighting all forms of bigotry, anti-Semitism, intolerance, racism, and xenophobia." People went nuts on him on Twitter and just attacked him viciously in response to his commemorating the 5 years of the massacre of a Jewish synagogue. Alexa, how many people died in the Tree of Life synagogue attack? Alexa, tell me about the Tree of Life synagogue massacre. Oh, you're an idiot. Okay, anyway, I can't pull it up. It was bad. This is pretty effed up. It doesn't matter how you feel about Bernie and whether you're upset that he's, that he's not 100% supporting the Palestinians. You don't go attack the man in response to him commemorating the 5-year anniversary of a horrific massacre at a synagogue. You don't do that. And you don't do it literally in the thread. So somebody posts about the massacre and you respond, F you, right? It's bad. It's very bad. Read the room, somebody says. It's like, really? Killed 11, wounded 6? Wasn't it more than that? I thought it was more than that. Who got to you, Bernie? Blink twice if you're in trouble. Who got to you? He's an American senator and a Jew commemorating a horrific terrorist attack. Thank you, Tom, on a Jewish synagogue. It goes on. It's pretty sick. It was 11. Okay, thank you. It's pretty sick. This is the kind of stuff people need to not do. So, because also it's not helping your cause. In any case, more questions. Yep. What's your thoughts on Russia might be doing nuclear test? First of all, I don't think they've done a nuclear test yet anyway. They pulled out of the nuclear treaty. Thank you, Julius. Yep. They pulled out of the nuclear test ban treaty, but They claimed they weren't going to do a nuclear test unless we do one. So, I'm just not. I know Alexis is biased. I'm surprised that Alexa couldn't actually answer that. Anyway, yeah, I'm not too worried about it. I mean, meaning, it's not the end of the world, literally. Thank you, Kronos, for that. What else we got? Oh, it was Pittsburgh. I thought it was Pittsburgh. That's what I thought. What else we got going, guys? More questions? The Donetsk River crossing. There was supposedly a little advancement. Thank you, Darian. I didn't really get into it because it was a small report, but there was, thanks again for that, Julius. There was reportedly a little bit of progress for the Ukrainian troops south of the river here. Not Donetsk. I'm sorry. Donetsk, I don't know what's up with Donetsk River. I thought you meant down here. Yeah, Donetsk, I don't know. But there was a little progress reportedly the Ukrainian troops had south of the Dnipro River here. That they're basically the Russians control south of the river, the Ukrainians control north, and the Ukrainians now have some troops south, and they're trying to, get a bridgehead going so they can attack more. I would condemn Israel if they intentionally attacked innocent children. Yes, I don't know that they did. Thank you, Boo the Ghost. We talked about that earlier. There's a big difference between intentionally killing children and children dying in warfare, which happens all the time, unfortunately, because that's what happens in wars. Huge difference. It's the difference between me murdering you and you tripping in my front, or not even tripping, me accidentally killing you, right? I trip and fall into you and you fall and hit your head on the sidewalk. Did I kill you? Yeah. Am I guilty? No. Big difference. So, no. Justify killing. I don't justify the killing of civilians. I absolutely justify killing of military that sometimes kill civilians. Yes, because that's called war. And it is quite literally, you might as well do some research on this. It is quite literally the way wars work. And there's all sorts of international laws dealing with it. Just because civilians die in war is not a crime. It is a crime if you intentionally target civilians in a war. You literally, like the Russians are doing in Ukraine, where you say, I want to kill civilians and I'm firing at civilians because I want them dead. That's what Russia does in Ukraine. That's a war crime. I am firing at a military target and my missile goes astray and kills civilians. That's not a war crime. A lot of folks don't want to admit that, but it's because they don't understand kind of the way war works. It's a huge difference. Yeah, but they're not. Prove it. No, I mean, I'm sorry, but the pro-Palestinian folks like to basically claim, and they claim all the time, that the Israelis are targeting civilians. Prove it. I mean, prove it. That's all I ask. If they're intentionally targeting, same result, well, I got news for you. If you ever sit on a jury, there's a big difference between me tripping and knocking into you and you hit your head on the sidewalk and die, and me stabbing you and killing you. Same result, but it's hugely different. Hamas, on the other side, targets civilians. Every Hamas, by the way, there have been 7 I don't see you guys mentioning this, some of you here on TikTok. There have been 7,000 Hamas missiles that have attacked Israeli civilians since the war started 3 weeks ago. None of you kind of mentioned that. Are you okay with that? Just curious, because they're literally firing them at civilians. 7,000 missiles. 7,000 times Hamas tried to kill civilians. Didn't accidentally try to kill civilians. They targeted civilians. You okay with that? The rest of you can watch the comments and see if you agree. I do not agree with genocide. That's why I'm not a big fan of the 80-year attacks on terrorist attacks from the Palestinians on Israel. No. And if you can prove that the Israelis are trying to commit a genocide, feel free. But the word genocide, unfortunately, gets used in this conflict by people who don't understand, again, the word genocide or any of the issue. It's not genocide because your side is getting attacked. It's not. I mean, I don't want to get into this with it, but for you guys, but it's a lot of folks don't understand the way these issues work. And on this issue, especially, they go crazy. And it's just not genocide that your guy's getting attacked. It's not genocide that civilians are dying. It's genocide if your goal is to wipe out all the civilians. Yes. If you want to wipe out the people, it's genocide. Yes. Somebody who says, let's wipe out the Palestinians, that's genocide. That's genocide. Yes. Yes. We want to erase the culture. We want to erase the people. That's genocide. But Israel doesn't say that. Israel doesn't do that. So that's not genocide. I'm sorry, but we got it. You're never going to have, thank you, 863. You're never going to have a resolution of this conflict if so many people are kind of wedded to, well, lying really about what's going on. No, it's sad, and it pisses people off. But at some point, I try to be objective here, but there's no way to be objective when people are just kind of lying, And I told you, I'll hold the Israeli side when they lie too about stuff. But boy, I mean, geez, guys, you just can't. You just can't. What else we got going here? Thank you, Dr. Prince. Not really. Actually, I disagree with this. Naughty Fox says, I have to disagree because the proof is the living rooms the bomb passed through to allegedly knowingly hit tunnels and bunkers. Well, actually, if your neighbor declares war on you and the government of the neighbor, which, by the way, people voted for, and then he took over, and then the people themselves haven't been protesting, nor have any of the neighbors been protesting your government, right? The Arab countries are fine with Hamas running Palestine or Gaza, right? But if that government then puts all of its government buildings, its headquarters underground, under civilian targets, and then attacks the neighbor and tries to wipe them out, what's the neighbor supposed to do? Not respond? Because, Hamas, as Hamas always does. I mean, I got news for you guys. If you're pissed at Israel for killing civilians, then I'd like to know why you're not pissed at Hamas for using civilians as human shields. Dr. Prince, if you actually cared about civilians, you'd be pissed at both. You would. Thank you, Bearded. You'd be pissed at the Israelis for killing civilians, and you'd be pissed at Hamas for intentionally trying to get civilians killed by using them as human shields, because Hamas attacked Israel and knew perfectly well that Israel was going to respond and end up killing civilians. Hamas wants Israel to invade. Thank you, Colonel Mustard, because they know if Israel invades, Israeli troops get killed and lots of Palestinian civilians get killed. Hamas wants that. They want that so badly because it'll radicalize the region and it'll turn more Palestinians against the Israelis and dim the chances of peace. Honestly, none of you guys, this is what bothers me. I would say almost none of the people defending the Palestinians and attacking the Israelis are willing to even say, not you guys, my regulars here, I know you guys are of good faith, but I'm talking in general in the ether out there on the internet. These guys will not, they won't criticize Egypt for blockading Gaza. Egypt's been blockading Gaza as long as Israel's been doing it. None of those guys mention Egypt, always Israel, right? I mean, and in this case, like I said, Hamas wants Palestinian civilians to die. They're using them as human shields. And you say that it's a war crime for Israel to fight back when Israel's attacked because civilians die. And Hamas is getting those civilians killed. Well, if you think a country isn't going to respond, that's not going to happen. If you declare war, on a country, they're going to respond. Thank you, Dawn. And they're not going to not attack because, you hid among civilians. Or actually, thank you, Dr. Prince. I was talking to somebody today on Discord. We had a good discussion about it, though. But he was saying, it's not fair for Israel to respond with an attack because the Palestinian people aren't really represented by Hamas. I disagree, but let's say they're not. So when Iraq invaded Iran, I'm trying to think, was it 1981? Whenever it was, around that time, when Iraq invaded Iran, which started the 10-year Iran-Iraq war, because Iraq was run by a dictator, Saddam Hussein, should the Iranians not have responded? Because by responding, they were killing Iraqi civilians. But that wasn't fair because Iraq was run by a dictator. He didn't represent the Iraqi civilians, so Iran shouldn't have responded. I mean, that's not the way it works. You have the right to defend yourself. And when another country attacks you, you attack back. And the other country doesn't get out of jail free because it happens to be a horrific government. Because I got news for you. That's crazy. It's crazy to say, if you're a democracy, we'll blow you up. But if you're a really bad government, we're going to let you attack with impunity because it would be bad of us to fight back. That's why I'm saying this is a horrifically complicated issue, and it is much more complicated and much grayer than most people are willing to admit. And I'll say this for the Israeli side too. The Palestinians have a point. I mean, they kind of got screwed by this whole thing from the beginning, and they did. It didn't help that they decided to launch, horrific terrorism against Jews worldwide for 80 years. Not a great way to win over hearts and minds, but at the same time, they kind of got screwed. I say kind of, I'm being facetious with kind of. The Palestinians got screwed too. They got screwed because, by the way, the Arab countries didn't give a damn about the Palestinians. Guess who had Gaza before the Israelis? Egypt. Did Egypt ever try to make Gaza a Palestinian territory? No. Thank you, Dr. Prince. Egypt didn't. Egypt had it, right? Jordan had the West Bank. Did Jordan ever try to make a Palestinian state? Nope. Right? None of them gave a damn about the Palestinians. So, I mean, everyone likes to pretend like it's again, it ain't just Israel. The Arab governments have been just as bad as the Palestinians. But in any case, I hate this issue. It's such an effed up issue. And you're never going to convince people. You'll never convince people because they don't want to be convinced. It's just one of those issues where people have their side and they're never gonna agree. Yeah. Oh, well, no, I'm sure they do, but Naughty Fox says, I'm just saying, no, good points, by the way. Naughty Fox is saying over on Twitch, I'm just saying Palestinians have a legitimate fear of Hamas blowback if they were to protest, etc. Fair enough. You know who doesn't have a fear of blowback? All the people protesting on behalf of Palestinians in Europe and America. You don't see any of them talking about how disgusting it is that Hamas did this just to get these people killed. How disgusting it is. How, for example, right? If I were there protesting Israel, I'd be saying we've got two enemies. We've got Israel and we've got Hamas, and both of them are killing Palestinian civilians. If I were out there protesting on behalf of Palestinians, that's what I'd say, because I'd be intellectually honest about it, right? If you're going to blame Israel, you absolutely should blame Hamas because they're screwing things over too. But they don't do it. And that's what bothers me. It's a fair point, though, to say that, yeah, for the Palestinians themselves, I'm sure they would get killed if they tried to protest Hamas. They probably would. They'd shoot them. They probably would. But in the other Arab countries, they could survive in Egypt. And well, Egypt, you're not allowed to protest anyway. Right. So it depends, I guess. But in the West, they certainly can. They don't care. I wouldn't blame a hostage for shaking hands with them. You want to get out of there. You want to get the hell out of there. And interestingly enough, by the way, they were talking about the older woman, I think the 86-year-old woman that they took hostage, and how they were asking her, how did he treat you? How did they treat you? And she said, we were treated fine, something like that. And her son came out and said, look, you have to understand, her husband is still being held hostage. She can't come out and say anything bad about. What's she going to do? Come out and say they're horrible, they mistreated her? They're horrible, they're animals? When they're holding her husband, they're still threatening to kill her husband, right? So I'm not surprised they shook hands, right? I mean, they're not only is your husband still being held hostage, but they could put a bullet through your head at any moment. They just killed all of your neighbors in front of you. They just threw grenades at babies, right? I mean, if they're going to do that, I'd shake their hand too if it meant I could get the hell out of there. I'm not on a paycheck, but I wish I were. But what you can do, if you like what I'm saying, feel free to give gifts on TikTok and gifts on YouTube, because that would support my work and it'll help me stay here and do even more of this. Because I do this every day, Monday 9 to 5. Well, not 9 to 5. I work Monday 9 to 5, but I mean, doing this kind of work. But every day, 6 o'clock Eastern, I'm doing this. And it helps to give me the gifts because I do this full time and I got to pay the bills. So I always like when the trolls say that about you're being paid, because I'm not. I'm actually being paid by you. So if you like what I'm doing, please buy a gift and support me, guys. I appreciate that. I'd still do the show anyway without the gifts. Thank you, Kronos. But I certainly appreciate it. Thank you, Hillel. I just read about Hillel the other day, by the way. I've always seen the name, but I never knew it was some guy like 1900 years ago. I'm still not up on the history, but nonetheless, I read that and I went, oh, interesting. Tweaking? I don't even know what tweaking. That's some kind of drug, isn't it? What is tweaking? Yeah, honey, I don't even drink. Drugs. Not even close. Not even close. Thank you, Interbang. The biggest drug I do is Coca-Cola once in a while. No, coffee, actually. I've got to still figure out how to do a TikTok shop. I don't really know how to do them. I just don't understand how TikTok shops actually work. So, if I can figure it out, I would do one, but just not sure. You guys are getting a lot of trolls today, aren't you? Sorry about that. Mods, because I've noticed too, there's like more. Do you think if Russia wins this invasion, other countries then seriously should worry? John asks, if folks want to maybe explain to Corporal how to use Discord, although it's not easy. Typically you want to download the app first is the best way to do it. But it's not easy. Yeah. Well, if you're a subscriber here, thank you, Boo. Or thank you, Boo. Thank you, Rebecca, for the Boo. You can just come and join the show here tomorrow. Yeah, you are a subscriber. Just come here at 11 a.m. Eastern, and we'll be here. If you want to check out the Discord anyway, download the Discord app on your phone, create an account, and look for my Discord, Erevosa's Discord, I think it's called. You can just Google my name and just sign up. It's free. Thank you, Hazel. If you want to check it out. It's not easy. The first thing isn't very easy, Oh, I know the people disagreeing aren't trolls. That I know. No, we have a lot of trolls. Oh, trust me. Ask the mods. We've had a horrific number of trolls. We've always had a horrific number of trolls covering Ukraine. The Russians always come, but we've had a lot of crazy trolls in the last 2 to 3 weeks. Seriously, any mods on TikTok want to explain what I'm talking about? I'm not talking about people disagreeing. I'm talking about the crazy people. It's a whole other, yeah. Audrey's one of the mods, Callum. I don't know who else is here today. Ash, a couple of the ones. It's a whole other world. Yeah, no. I'm not talking about the regulars. The regulars, I know a lot of you disagree. That's okay. It's the crazies. Yeah. So, who lived there before in the Holy Land? The Jews and then the Canaanites. Do you criticize the occupation of the West Bank? I criticize the settlers for sure. I think the Israeli settlers are nut jobs. And the ones in the West Bank. They're absolute nut jobs. Thank you, Stevie. And I've said it before. They're horrific. I think they're nasty people, and they're setting back the peace process. And they are. They're trying to steal the Palestinians' land. Yes, it's horrific. I've never been a fan. I've never been a supporter of the settlements. No, not at all. It's horrible. And again, I blame Netanyahu and that wing of the party. Well, Netanyahu's wing and the further to the right, the religious crazies, But, so yeah, no, I agree with you on that one. Absolutely. And the religious extremists are nut jobs. And actually, that's a whole other issue with Israel now. The Israelis know it, but the Orthodox keep getting more and more power, and they keep trying to, I'm not as up on this as some of you guys, but they keep trying to sort of ban more and more things on the Sabbath and this kind of garbage. Oh, thank you, Hazel, for that. The solution is going back to some of the proposals that are already out there and finding good leaders, honest leaders on both sides that are willing to commit, on the Palestinian side and the Israeli side. But I don't know how you do that. I just don't know how you do it. Thank you, Hedge. Because you need good people willing to agree. We talked about this yesterday that I want to get some people on to talk about. I think it would be interesting to talk about Northern Ireland, the Troubles, as the Irish call it, but basically that battle that was going on for years between the Brits and the Irish, or the Northern Irish, and the terrorism and everything else, and how they were able to move from terrorism against, violence and terrorism back and forth to negotiating a peace treaty and having it work with people who you were just killing. We could see tomorrow, although Callum, I think it'd be interesting to do it for a nightly thing like here. I still think it would be interesting here. Not right now. It's getting late, but you know what I mean? I think it'd be interesting because since we tend to do our Israel, let me think about it. Thanks, Jeremy. Because also tomorrow, I don't know whether Vlad's got an update or not tomorrow. He may or may not, but we can see. Let me think about it. But I do think it might be interesting to beam you in here at some point because we've got the larger audience. And then you can experience the comments on the receiving end. Quite fun. The biggest terrorist state in the world? I don't know. Nowadays, I'm not sure. Probably Iran is my guess, but I'm not sure. I'm going to guess probably Iran. I mean, it's got to be because who else is financing all of it and everything else? Texas, no. Well, Texas is a different story with women. I mean, Russia has its own problems, yes. I mean, but I mean, terrorism, Russia's war crimes, but I mean, I'm saying like actual terrorism, and Iran because of all the the money they're giving and everything else. Anyway, well, anything else, guys, or what? Just looking here. Terry Davis is saying you need 3 things to make Gaza work: security, food independence, energy independence. Other rich Arab countries need to pay for that. Yeah, and the security especially, they've got to basically keep it free. The problem is you've got other Arab countries that aren't democracies that are going to put forces in to preserve democracy in Gaza? Really? Right? I mean, let's face it, guys, if you're Egypt or Jordan, think about this. Do you think about the same issue we have with Ukraine? Putin cannot afford to have a prosperous Ukraine on his border, right? To have a prosperous former Soviet country. And Ukraine especially, that the Russians at least think, oh, the Ukrainians, they're just like us, right? The Russians think they're just like us, but they have a prosperous democracy. Why don't we have a prosperous government, a prosperous economy, right? It looks bad for the Russians. It makes Putin's hold on power more tenuous. I kind of wonder about Egypt and Jordan too. Does the king of Jordan and the president for life of Egypt really want a free and prosperous democratic Gaza? Like where Palestinians are able to actually have a country that thrives and again is free and has elections? Really? I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting question. He doesn't want Hamas either, because he really doesn't like Hamas because they're linked with some of the Muslim Brotherhood and the people that are, a threat in Egypt. But I don't know. But in any case, I do agree though. I still think the Arab countries have got to get together and try to preserve the peace as far as, stopping it from being taken over by the crazies in Gaza. But what do you do? Anyway. All right, guys, I'm going to do the quick summary here. And then we are going to go and then Mustard. Not Mustard. I mean, Callum, I'll have to, I saw you talking to Mustard. I'll have to think about what, you think Israel, you think Israel has democracy? Here's a little secret for you. Take a look at Israel's neighbors. If you want to know about who doesn't have democracy, Israel is by far the strongest and best democracy in the region by far. Thank you, Joe Colella. It's often said, it's a cliche, but it's true. The Arabs in Israel have more freedom than any Arab in the Middle East. Way more freedom than any Arab in the Middle East. So yeah, if we're going to talk about democracies, I mean, I could talk about gay people. I always get a chuckle out of the Queers for Palestine. There's like a 3% support for gay rights among any of the Arab, Gaza, any of the Arab areas, or Arab, whatever you want to call them. I mean, Arab is probably too generalizing. Israel, 45, 50%, because you also got the religious thing going on. But 45 to 50 versus 3%, kind of a big difference. But yeah, you don't want to be getting into a discussion on who's got a better democracy, Israel versus the Middle East. Ooh. I mean, ooh. Yeah, not even close. Not even close. All right, let's do a quick summary here. Well, you're a lot better than Gaza, I'll tell you that, or Jordan or Egypt. But Israel, okay, let's do a quick summary of the news we covered. Israel military launched an intense aerial bombardment of Gaza on Friday. The Israeli government also said they were starting to put troops on the ground, but it wasn't clear whether this was the beginning of the big invasion or more shaping exercises. The Washington Post reports the Biden administration is urging Israel to rethink its plans for a major ground offensive, suggesting targeted strikes instead. The United States is supportive of humanitarian pauses for getting supplies in rather than and then I explained the difference between humanitarian pause and a ceasefire. The U.S. military conducted airstrikes on 2 sites in eastern Syria in response to Iran's role in getting its surrogates in Syria and Iraq to attack U.S. troops, military installations. Then we talked about Ukraine. There are claims circulating on Telegram that Vladimir Putin died. I don't think so, but thought I would bring it up anyway. The Russians say he hasn't. There have been a lot of rumors about Putin's health lately. Officials from up to 70 nations will meet in Malta this weekend to discuss Ukraine's vision for peace. A leading Russian puppet was shot in Crimea. The Russians apparently had planned him to become like the new leader in Kyiv when they invaded. And the Ukrainians, who enjoy a revenge as a dish best served cold, shot the guy. A year and a half later, he was severely injured, but not dead yet from what we heard. Russia has lost at least a brigade of troops, 2 to 8,000 men, according to the Ukrainian government. Institute for Study of War does back this up and say the Russians lost so much equipment going after Avdiivka. I'm sorry, this was going after Avdiivka, the town in the east, that they lost so much equipment in addition to the men that it's going to set back any kind of a Russian offensive capability for a long time. Hungary and Slovakia voiced criticism of the new Ukrainian aid package at the EU. The British Ministry of Defense says that Russia's heavy bombers, thank you, who is that? Corporal, thank you for that. Shemerai. Russian heavy bombers have not conducted air-launched cruise missile strikes into Ukraine for over a month. Trying to figure out why that is. And finally, Germany has handed over a third Iris-T air defense system to Ukraine, which is a very good thing. Oh, is it Mustard's birthday today? I did not know. Woo-woo! Well, happy birthday, Mustard. Give Mustard little, I don't think we have little birthday. Oh, cake? I kept meaning to put a cake as one of the emojis. I don't, yeah, we don't, you got access to them anyway. Okay, you got access to gifts and things. That's good. Thank you, Kronos, for the gift. All right, guys, so that's it for tonight. We can hang for a minute. Thank you, Flower Lady. Thank you for me as well, because you're buying me the gift, giving him the gift. Yours is tomorrow. Oh, that's right. I forgot, Ash. Yours is coming up too. That's right. Woo-woo! Lovely. Well, we'll have a mini impromptu birthday party for Mustard here right now then. Do you think the U.S. will go to war with Iran? I mean, I don't think Iran wants the U.S. to go to war with Iran is the thing. You know, we still have we don't want to get into war with Iran, but if we're forced to, we still do have a pretty big military, you know, thank you, Ellie. And Iran doesn't want us blowing them up. The Russians probably also don't really want to get dragged in too, because if Iran gets dragged in, do the Russians get dragged in? If the Russians don't get dragged in, then it's kind of like, what's the use of being Russia's friend? But if Russia does get dragged in, that's not good either, because Russia can't afford another war right now, you know? Well, the news was that the Israeli ground invasion might have started, or they might just be doing a smaller invasion for a specific goal tonight. I had not seen I'll look again on Twitter here. Amongst my defense folks, I did not see what sort of the latest. I don't mind hanging a couple minutes and just chatting a minute here with you guys. Let's see if there's any. Let's see here. Since I snacked before the show, I'm not as hungry today, so I'm in better stead. I would put on CNN, but I think YouTube. Oh no, that's not true. I can put on CNN. Hold on, let me put on CNN, because CNN typically has like the update. Oh, and Sasha's, my dog's on the ground. Oop, there you go. You guys can see her. There she is. Oh, she's moving. I think she heard me talking and she probably figured I was going to pick her up. Hamas pleads to Hezbollah allies for more reinforcements. Interesting. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, Hamas has not been happy that Hezbollah and Iran have not been more helpful, which is kind of interesting. Yeah, no, she's talking to an Israeli journalist. I do not think, I'm still not convinced it's a ground offensive, because I think they would Colombia support for Hamas. That's kind of weird. I don't know. Excuse me here. Woo! You got it, you all. So let me look here and just see. Let me see. I hear you, Sash. Just wait. I know. It's 7:30. Give me a second. She knows. She knows the girl has a clock, my dog, like nobody's business. She knows that that this is the time when I go and brush her teeth and give her a little treat. I know. Just wait. Yeah, I'm not seeing anybody really discussing this, which makes me think it's not. Oh, let me look at one more thing here on Twitter. I've got a couple different things. I hear you, Sash. Just wait. Breaking reports that thousands of Israeli troops have entered Gaza to rescue hostages and strike a blow to the Hamas war machine. Okay, that's interesting. So it could also be a hostage mission too. Thank you, B. Smith. Sasha, I hear you. Just wait. According to U.S. officials, Israel's ground operation to rescue hostages held in Gaza and dislodge Hamas has reached a rolling start. Thousands of troops. So clearly something's going on, as we said earlier. But it's not clear. It's not clear beyond that. Yeah. Nope, that's it. Okay, so we don't know any more than that, guys. We don't know any more than that. Yep, that's all we got. Yeah, Colombia and Hamas, that's kind of crazy. You know, then again, developing countries and that whole thing, you know, who knows? They're bad on Ukraine too. You know what I mean? So it's always possible. Oh, excuse me. Oh. Well, the problem, Siham, is you got to explain to us which hostages Israel has taken. You're not necessarily a hostage just because you got arrested. In the same way that just because you died doesn't make it a war crime or intentional. And folks have got to be more specific with their language and with their analysis here if you want to win the fight. So, you know, they're not hostages if they're arrested. So, all right. Anyway, all right, let's go, guys. I'm going to sign off. Not in the mood. Well, Israel took 2 million hostages. Then so did Egypt. I don't hear you talking about Egypt having a blockade on Gaza. So does Egypt have 2 million hostages too? I'm going to guess you're not going to respond. All right. Have a good night, guys. Not going to start that discussion again. All right. See you tomorrow morning. And I'm going to go do my videos right now that I had to delete because they had music on them. All right. See you guys. Good night.